Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Idiosyncratic Fables, a part of Wilderness Fire Productions, where we are cultivating the passion for books, audiobooks, and storytelling. Since time first began, we all have been storytellers. Everybody's got a story to tell, and I want to hear yours. I'm your host, James, also known as the Kilted Narrator, and today we're diving into a different kind of revolution, one full of spies, divided loyalties, forbidden romance, and the forgotten corners of American history. My guest is author T.J. London, the self-described rebel, liberal, lover, fighter, and mohawk-rocking mistress of the revolution. She's a pharmacist-turned-storyteller who left the clinical world to write the Rebels and Redcoats Saga, a gritty, steamy historical fiction series set during the American Revolutionary War that follows the Carlisle and McKesson families through Spies, Redcoats, Oneida alliances, and the messy fight for conscience over king. From the Tory and the traitor through the turncoat, the rebel and the prequel man of war, TJ fills in the gaps history left behind. And she does it with award-winning, over-the-top audiobook productions that bring the whole world to life. We're talking research, romance, rebellion, mental health metaphors woven into fiction, the indie path after a lot of no's, and what it really means to rock the revolution. TJ, welcome to the show, my friend. I am so honored to have you back on.
I gotta be honest, that was like the best opening ever of my stuff. Like, that was amazing. I was like, wow, who is this person? Oh my gosh.
It's all you, my friend.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Well, it's great to be back here with you, right? Like we work together. So this is amazing.
I will never forget the day when Jock reached out to me, said, "Hey, James, I've got this kind of once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you for a historical fiction audiobook to audition for. And if you get the part, you'll be a part of a multicast of like 8 other narrators." I went, "Oh, that sounds cool. Yeah, let's do that." And sure enough, not only did I, win the audition, but when I do get the part, that's just like a minor fraction of what I had to do. I had 17 different voices I had to do for you, TJ?
Yeah, Man of War. But the best part about it is you're like one of the first voices in Man of War, actually, as the captain when he dies. And it's such a fabulous moment.
Oh,
and
Captain Barrington.
Bolton, when it opens up in this fabulous, and you just like, the sailor in you embraced the sailor in that story. It was perfection. It was seriousness. Yeah. It was meant to happen. Yeah,
absolutely. Was truly meant to happen. You describe yourself as a rebel, liberal, lover, fighter, and mohawk-rocking mistress of the revolution. How did that persona develop, and how does it show up in your writing and public presence?
That's really funny. Well, the mohawk is kind of straightforward, right? Like for most people who've seen me now in the business, they get it. They know that about me. Rebel. Well, here's the thing. Like, I don't feel like, not that historical authors, we have a specific look. We're all like very unique, right? I felt like most people, when I tell them what I write, they're like, I don't see that about you. So they don't know that I'm secretly a scientist, right? But also like a complete lover of history. So that's a little bit about where that came about. Liberal being, I don't want anybody to like put it on a political scale. I mean, more like we all live our lives. Like we all do our things. Like I've got space for everybody and every walk of life. So that's what I mean. It's not more a political statement as it is a statement about like how I choose to live and people around me. And lover and fighter, hell yeah. Like you've got to have the love and the fight within you to write, right?
Of course.
And I'm secretly like a Sex Pistols, like old punk fan.
Yes.
Like most people who know me. So I felt like historical could be rock and roll too, right? Like, again, love my colleagues in the romance business. Like we all have to go walk our own path. For me, I was like, I want to write a little more rock and roll in my like, and again, those who read my book might go, yeah, I don't know that I find that rock and roll true. But in my sense, I like to take historical and make it grittier, harder, tougher, more realistic, and so that's me just rebelling against, you know, what I considered the norms when I got started writing, right? It's all bets are off now. Things have changed. But
Yeah.
I mean, I started writing a really long time ago. So that's where that comes from. And I've just kind of stuck with it. So um,
Gotcha.
that's my moniker and I'm going to stick to it, right?
As well you should. Now, you mentioned the scientist portion, and that weaves into you coming from a pharmacy, critical care, clinical background. I
Yeah.
swear I can talk. I do it for a living. What made you shift toward writing historical fiction full time, and how does that medical training still influence your storytelling?
Well, full disclosure, I still work in the other field, but I
Ah.
don't work as a clinician anymore. I don't work as a clinician anymore. So I will say that.
Gotcha.
It's interesting. I always was a creative. Like I'm a right brain, left brain person. Actually, I worked in neurology for a long time, and there are people that are
Ooh.
definitely hemispheric. I am truly a right brain, left brain person. So I have this like war going on. Should I be creative? Should I be scientific in my head going back and forth? And I loved writing as a kid, and it was something that I did. And I've been very transparent. I started writing as part of a mental health thing. Like I had wrote my whole life, but like writing the physical books was actually part of a mental health journey. And so it kind of was something I started to do to just get through a very difficult time in my life. And then people liked my stuff, and then it took off a little bit, and then I kept writing. But I still use it as a mental health tool, and it goes to both aspects of my life, both the writing end, and to get through some of the traumas and trials and tribulations, as we know, this world is full of like those, right?
Oh,
But
yeah.
also through the piece that is my job now that I have, because I still do work in healthcare, but in a different setting. And it allows me to stay kind of fresh in both places. So it's kind of fun in my real job. I call it my real job. I have a secret life. They're like, you have a secret, like, what is this you do? And then on the other end, my friends who know me in the writing world, they're like, hey, Trace, can you help me with some pharmacy problems? I got some questions. Like, what do I do? So I live like this secret life, but it's not as cool as Clark Kent, right? Like, it's not as
Sure.
cool as like Wonder Woman. Mine's a little bit more boring, but that's how it works.
No worries. You often say your goal is to fill in the gaps of missing history,
Yeah.
those interesting but forgotten corners. What first pulled you specifically toward the American Revolutionary War era?
Well, I'm going to draw attention to one thing that's even a step further. Like we think of the
All right.
revolution, we know the revolution, but I work in the frontier, like in New York State. What a frontier, but it was at one point, right?
Yeah.
And the history of, and again, I always say this: I am not of the Six Nations. I am not Haudenosaunee, but I have chosen to write within this region and this culture, right? And part of it, at least. I was a fan of American Revolutionary War. My dad was born on the 4th of July. He was in the military. He used to love to do historic sites. We went to Williamsburg as a child, those things. I fell in love with the clothing when I was young. But the revolution part that I write specifically about upstate New York and the Six Nations came from, I was reading a book. It was called The Forgotten Allies. I can't think of the author, but he's fabulous. It was about the Six Nations and their involvement, specifically Oneidas in the Revolutionary War. And I was just like, why don't I know this history? Like, that's messed up. Like, why don't I know this? And there aren't that many books about it. And I actually met
Hmm.
with someone from the Oneida Nation, and they gave me a little bit of background, but they weren't even as in depth as what I had read. So I just was like, I feel like through romance and through fiction, we could gain some interest here. Like, right, people don't pick up biographies, unfortunately, these days, unless they're really looking for something. And they don't pick up a lot of these things. And it's sad. And I was like, if I could get somebody interested in this or to ask questions like I did, like I could enlighten somebody as much as I enlightened myself. So that actually became the whole thing. I just fell in love with this story and these people and their journey. And I don't know if people believe in reincarnation. That's everybody's choice. I mean, we all have our own feelings about religion and spirituality, but I really believe that in another life, I'm not saying that I was of a Oneida culture, but I was in this region. Like I was part of this story somehow, be it whatever
Sure.
side I was on. It just, like when I was just in actually that area of the country last night, and I was driving through the roads, and it felt like I was passing through time as these trees went by me, and I was just like, somehow my soul like belongs at that time and place, and I bore witness to it whatever way I did, and this is
Right.
just me repeating that story.
Almost like your soul remembers it.
Right. It's like and people ask me often, like, how do you create these characters the way that you do? And I'm like, they come to me. Like
Yeah,
I don't make them. They come to me. They speak to me. So
that's perfect. So let's now dive in to the Rebels and Redcoats saga itself.
Yeah.
Walk us through that saga for listeners who are new, the order as far as Man of War being the prequel, then
Yeah.
we've got the Tory, the traitor, the turncoat, the rebel.
Yeah.
The central families, Carlisle-McKesson,
Absolutely.
and the big themes of loyalty, conscience, karma versus justice, and identity during the Revolution. Talk to us more about that.
So I'll give you the order. That's the easy part. So like Outlander, I'm an ongoing saga, right? Now, technically, could you start at different points in the saga? People do. You're going to miss some things. You're going to spoil some things. But I mean, like, far be it for me to prevent somebody from doing their business. But technically, it's meant to be read. Man of War is the prequel. That's the introduction to the McKessons and the Carlisles. So they're both British families. Obviously, at that point, we're at the Royal Navy. James was in this book. He was fabulous in this story.
Thank you.
Guys got to hear him. It's a Royal Navy story that takes place during the French and Indian War, and it really introduces us to the Carlisles and the McKesson family. So the Tory then moves forward 20 years. We're in the American Revolution on the frontier. We have John Carlisle, who is our Redcoat hero. I went a little backwards, but you'll recognize as you go through the story why I did what I did. But anyway, it's the story of Dallas McKesson and John Carlisle and the involvement of the Six Nations during the early negotiations of the Revolutionary War. Basically, the British were they didn't have enough manpower to take over and control the colonies, and they wanted to control New York because it was the breadbasket of, the colonies. So they needed the Six Nations, because that was their land up there, to help them do the job. Okay. But the Americans felt the same way too. So that's a very top line story of the background. So my love story takes place there, and it continues on through the Tory, then the traitor, and then the turncoat. And in the turncoat, we actually see the Battle of Oriskany, which was a real battle between militias and the Six Nations. And then we also see the Battle of Fort Stanwix, and we see Benedict Arnold, which you're familiar with that also as well. We see Benedict Arnold and that important role that he played before he turned traitor. He was a very important character of the story. So after that, during that story, my Redcoat is my hero, and actually my rebel is my naughty, pain-in-the-butt antagonist. And he is the cousin of Dallas, the heroine who falls in love with John. Well, throughout the story, he causes a lot of problems for John, because naturally he would. And so we get to go back and find out what he was doing all that time and how he weaves into the story. So in the Rebel, we trek back to the traitor, but now we see the story coming from Alexi's point of view. And so that's book 4. And we find out about him and a woman named Wilhelmina. She was a very important woman, an heiress, who was kidnapped by him. And it's a little bit of Romancing the Stone meets The Last of the Mohicans.
Right.
And then we move into what I'm writing now, which is The Raider, which is the second book. And again, we have John Carlisle. We have that piece of the story, but we're now working with Alexi being the main perspective. So the McKessons and the Carlisles are the main families. And then, obviously we have the other characters that kind of weave in and out of the story, but it continues to go on. There will be another book behind that one, but also Man of War is going to have a second book coming too as well for those who like the Royal Navy, because there's a little bit more story to tell about the Carlisles in that piece of the story. So yeah, that's kind of the quick and dirty, if that was quick.
It was. Yeah, very well laid out. So highlighting specifically Captain John Carlisle, as you said, starts as a redcoat dealing with deep personal stains and divided loyalties. What draws you to writing a protagonist who was so conflicted, the spy, soldier,
Right.
lover, rather than a more straightforward patriot hero?
Well, the funny thing was I wasn't writing for any readers. I was writing for myself. And I made a lot of mistakes. I guess if you're going to try to sell to mass media and do it the right way, I was writing in counseling. And for whatever reason, that character, that's how he manifested in me. He is my spirit angel. I believe that spirit walks with me, speaks through me, truly. I'm apparently possessed by a redcoat soldier, whatever the case may be. Believe what you like. But who's got an alcohol problem, an opium problem, and all those different things.
Sure.
But he just was the vehicle for me as I was going through counseling. For whatever reason, that is how the character presented to me. I went to bed and woke up one day and this character came to me, and I was able to put through my personal issues I was going through his voice. Now, the female character, Dallas McKesson, also represents the journey of me as a woman going through aspects of my life and what I was dealing with. in mental health, but he was really more what was happening pressing in my life that was putting me through my paces at that time. I could just speak through him better for whatever reason, or our stories made sense together, right? And he has addiction issues. I had my share of addiction issues. He has, he's dealing with some PTSD and some trauma. I was dealing with those things myself. So I was just able to speak through him or with him, and so that's how he became the lead.
Yeah.
It was organic. It wasn't like I didn't plot anything because I didn't mean to be a writer when I did this. I didn't mean to write a book. And then my friends always tell me when they read, they're like, God, Tracy, you're really funny. And I'm like, no, I'm not actually funny as a person. But when I write John, I'm funny because he's like a separate personality in me. Like I can step off and be him. There's that, 6 degrees of separation. When I write him, I can be separate from my problems and I can reason through them. And so Alexi is too. I talk about the men more than the women because for whatever reason, like my real difficult problems I deal with them through my male characters. I don't know why. I don't know what that says about me. But Alexi, like a fan was asking me today about it. She goes, he is kind of my toxic favorite. And I laughed and I was like, he kind of is. But I told her, I go, the thing about Alexi is like, when I want to burn shit down, when I want to ruin the world, like when I'm angry, like that is the character like I can manifest through.
Yes.
When I need to like go deep and settle my life and grow up and be an adult and learn how to deal, I do that through John, if that makes any sense.
It does. You do a beautiful job within the books to blend the gritty historical detail with romantic and steamy elements, plus significant Oneida Iroquois perspectives.
Right.
How do you balance historical accuracy, cultural respect, romance, and action without tipping into pure escapism or even a pure textbook?
I spent a lot of time with my books. So that is one of the things that's challenging. So in a day and age where people are turning over books left and right, and that's their business and how they want to do it, and it's a very fast-paced writing world, to do that kind of balance takes a lot of time and spending a lot of time with your prose. And it takes a lot of time of research and then making a lot of mistakes and working with good people and going back and saying, okay, I've got too much information here. I need more here. Like you have to read yourself over and over again and say, okay, Tracy, we don't need all this history. I mean, because you get super excited when you find out a fun fact. You're like, oh my God, I figured out how to say that in Oneida. But do we need that? Right?
Yes.
So one of the things is when I write, I have to world build just like any other book, like a fantasy, like a PNR, like all those things have to world build. I have to too, because none of us live in 1700s New York, right? So you have to have that balance of world building. Now, in a historical, do you actually need a lot of facts? No, you don't. But here's the thing. Most people know the history a lot of times that they tend to read or they have more information about it. This is something that I've recognized a lot of people don't know it, okay? So I have to give them enough to intrigue them, but also history is a nice little box, right? And it can change an author, okay? And that's amazing. When you have guardrails on it and you have to learn to bump around and make something exciting for a reader, that is amazing. When you can make a reader go, I'm super curious about that. Did that really happen? Does Fort Stanwix really look like that? When you can do that to somebody, that's like a gift to a historical writer, right? So it's a balance of, I've got this box, I got to bump around in here, I've got a world build, but then I've also got to tell my story, okay? So you spend you do what you've got to do, you build the original book, like you build the draft, and then you go through and say, okay, prune this out, add this in, until you feel like you've got a nice balance. Now, the historical respect, the Six Nations, is one of those things that like, you have a lot of people read it. You have people of the culture read it. You do that. But at some point, you have to tell your story, right? So you own that some of this is fiction. You have to. The other hard thing is theirs was not a written language. So when it comes to the 1700s, that's a very different lifestyle than it is now, than it even was in the 1800s for that community. So you just do the best that you can. You be as respectful as you can. And you have reverence for another culture, and the life that they're living, and own that you've done, what you can. And unfortunately, I always learn more and I always try to learn more. But I'm not perfect at it either. But I got to be honest, I'm Polish American. Does that mean that I only write Polish American books for the rest of my life? Well, no. Part of being an author is taking yourself out of your body and putting yourself in someone else's experience and doing the best you can to do it. Just like as an actor, as a voice actor
Yeah.
and a screen actor, we're doing the same thing. And, you know, if someone else had written this book, amazing, but they didn't. So I'm just trying to draw attention and be as respectful as I can and maybe get people to ask questions and go seek out those individuals and their story as well.
I love that.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
That's the truth of it. There's something, and I mean this from my soul. I was there at some point in my soul, whether I was, bear witness to or what have you. And, like I said, I never claim any of those things, but when I read these things and I see them, I'm like, people need to know this story. They
Yeah,
need to know these people.
absolutely. Now, research is clearly intensive for you, as you've mentioned all the
Yeah.
extensive things that you've done. What sources, sites, or unexpected discoveries have been the most valuable or even the most surprising while writing these books?
So there's been a couple different things. So there's not actually a lot of books about the Battle of Fort Stanwix, the
Mm,
Battle of Oriskany. There's few of them. There's a lot more about Saratoga. It's all over the place, right? Because we think of that
sure.
as a big battle. I mean, if I tell somebody, "Hey, let's talk the Battle of Oriskany," they're like,
The what? Yeah.
"Ooh, Oriskany, isn't that like in Scotland?" So their like thoughts are just not there. So there's an author with the last name Sawchuk. I can't think of his first name. He wrote Of Muscle and
Hmm.
Tomahawk. It's a fabulous book. And then Gavin Watt, who's actually Canadian, who wrote an encyclopedia of these battles, as well as he has his book, The Rebellion on the Mohawk.
Yes.
These are just absolutely brilliant resources. And they enlightened me to, obviously they're where, what their citations are. But when you go in and look at, they're citing down to letters and people and stuff. So those are the people that like, I really respect their research. And then a lot of the research has come from me going to site, right? Like going to Fort Stanwix, talking to people from the national park. Fort Niagara is one of my favorite places to visit. I love it there. And well, it's in the news a lot right now. Fort Ontario and Oswego, right? I spend a lot of time visiting these places, as well as Colonial Williamsburg. I go there every year and do research there. But the most exciting source I ever purchased or got was an Oneida dictionary. And there's
Ooh.
actually an Oneida app now. And it allowed me, because there's only, I think it's around 10 to 12 people who are defined as fluent in that language anymore. And I
Wow.
was able to come across this app with these beautiful words and this dictionary. And we were able to give the voice, well, not the voice, but the sound and the words a life again through audio. And
Nice.
Tara Langella, who does Dallas McKesson, and Adam Gold, who does Alexi Cloud Walker, they speak these words with such beauty, and they give the reader the sound of these people. Like it's like they come back to life again.
Yeah.
Not that they're not here using this language.
Right.
We're not hearing it every day, unfortunately. Like we respect that that's not right and not cool, but through audiobooks, people get to hear this and be curious. And the way that I love you sounds in Oneida and the word mine, how beautifully it sounds when Adam says it, it's Kunalunkwa. That is I love you in Oneida. Like how beautiful is that?
Mm.
So it was one of the coolest things ever when I found this dictionary, paid a very lots and lots, like a lot of money for it. And it was worth every penny. And it gave this granularity, this truth to this sound to the story and to into the people in the story.
I love that. Now, without major spoilers, what's one character arc or relationship across the series that has surprised even you as the author as it developed?
Alexi, he wasn't supposed to have a book. All the hated the character. Hated it. I created him just to be a pain in the ass rebel and to mess with John Carlisle. That was the goal. Like never to have a story.
I had a feeling Alexi was going to be your answer.
And the funny thing, I mean, I talk about him online all the time, call him toxic and all these different things.
Yeah.
But this is interesting. I lost connection to John Carlisle at one point. As authors, we are fickle with our muses. You are an author. You recognize this. You understand.
That I
And
do.
John gets into a mood and he's like, no, I don't want to talk to you today. Sorry. And I could not get him back, like for nothing. Like he freaked off and did his own thing. Like he wasn't coming back. And I was actually quite devastated by this. And so my editor, it started with her. She's like, what are you going to write me an Alexi book? I'm like, there's never, ever, ever going to be an Alexi book. Never, never, never. And then Danielle, as everyone knows, the great Danielle Lanzarada from Elysian Nightfall, my business partner. She's like, so when are you going to write that Alexi book for me, huh? Like everybody wants to hear that story. I'm like, you have toxic problems, girl. You have toxic problems. And she's like, oh, no. Everybody's going to love him. He's that man you love to hate. I'm like, whatever. But needless to say, I'm like, okay, fine. You want me to write a story? I'll write a story about him. And I was in such a place in my life. I was angry about a lot of things that were happening in my world and parts of the business and stuff. So he became this lightning rod for me to write this anger, right? And as I wrote him, I did not like him anymore. Like I still didn't like him. This is where the power of audio comes in. And this is a credit to Adam Gould. And I have to give him this credit here. So when we were auditioning for the Turncoat, we wanted to find the Alexi that was going to stay and do the voice consistently, right? And I had all these auditions and I knew what Alexi sounded like. I knew what this man was going to sound like. Okay. And he sent in this audition that just changed my whole view of the character. And I was just like, well, shit, that's not what I expected. And so when I met with him, because as you know, I interview and meet with all my voice actors, he just like, there was something about listening to him speak and the way that he understood the character and his vision. And I was just like, okay, wait, I need to do something different. So I actually went back that whole year while we were working on the Turncoat and completely rewrote the character in the book. And he ended up becoming this character that I love that's very flawed. And he wasn't just an angry jerk who made everybody's life miserable. Like he became this deep, flawed, like very emotional side. And he's actually probably more me than John Carlisle is, disturbingly so. But I have to give that credit because it really had a lot to do with his just like not only his vision as we talked to him, but the way that he portrayed him was such vigor, but also such delicacy. Like there was so much respect paid to the character and it just changed my whole vision of him. So that is a proof how audio can really change things. So I went from absolutely loathing that character to absolutely loving that character. And now I can't say I love him as much as John Carlisle. I refuse to say that. He is definitely very special to me. And now I write him, right? Like now he's the second main character of the series. So voice actors can change the business for us. Characters can change for us. And, sometimes the things we hate most are probably the closest to who we really are,
Interesting.
He kind of mirrors a lot of my bad behaviors. I'm not abusive to women. Like, that's not a thing. And I'm not abusive to my husband. But it's definitely my anger and my rage and my frustration at certain things that happen around me. He definitely became, unfortunately, that toxic version of me that I can't take out in the real world.
I have noticed that exact same quality in my own writing style because I'm working on my second book in my 2-book thriller duology.
Okay.
There's a lot of just dark, gritty characteristics in the antagonist that have been living rent-free in my head for I don't know how many years now. Like,
Sure.
yeah, I have those tendencies. Do I want to act on them? No, because I will never see the light of day again.
Right. This is healthy. This is healthy treatment. This is healthy therapy, right?
Right. And I actually want to circle back to that mention of therapy. Earlier, you've shared that your books grew partly out of counseling and serve as metaphors for your own mental health journey. How does writing function as both a creative outlet and personal processing for you? And has that changed over the course of the saga?
So it started out where literally I was going through a very challenging event in my life, and I've spoken about it in the past. And I started writing because my therapist was like, listen, I was a researcher in my previous job. I was no longer doing that. She's like, you need to keep yourself busy and you need to not think about these things. And when I would come into counseling, I couldn't vocalize what was going on. So I used John. I literally wrote him on paper or typed him out at some points and just came in and read him literally there. And she would be like, okay, why does he feel this way? And I was using him as a conduit. So literally reading it to my counselor and using it as a conduit. That's how it started. And at one point when I got to the end of the trader, I didn't read all of it. After a while, I just started to tell her what I wrote that week and what was going on. And I was really using him as a one-on-one conduit to what was happening. When it came to about a year a year into it, when the trader was just about done, then I was like, well, I don't know where my life goes now. And she's like, well, keep writing. So I just kept writing, and that became the Turncoat, right? And then ultimately John Carlisle, he goes through his story and he has like a better life and all those things and what have you. But how it's continued to evolve is I don't necessarily take it to my counselor and read it anymore. And we don't really talk about it. It's allowed me to have a better focus though and understand what's going on with me. But it's not an intentful thing. Like I don't sit down and say, okay, I want to work out my anger with, the writing business in Alexi today. It's not that simple, right? I sit down and start writing and I'm like, and I'm like burning shit and, scalping characters and doing things like this. And then my friend reads and she's like, wow, you're really angry at so-and-so for X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, how did you see that? I didn't see that. So and honestly, I will be very frank, and I'm often very frank. The rebel is actually a metaphor for the business, the book business. And most people, they don't realize that it's actually a metaphor for the audio business. When I first got into audio and obviously the challenges of that business. And Alexi, as he kidnaps Will, represents the business looming large over me and feeling like I was a bit captivated by it and was like, oh my God, like I just have me and my little book. Like, how do I survive all of this? Right.
Yeah.
And all the things that come along as you move through this business as a writer and being in the audiobook business and then being a producer, right? Like how it grows. So, but I didn't even realize that. I just started writing. It was like angry and I'm doing my thing. And my friend's like, wow, you're really struggling with this business right now, aren't you? And, so it's not that straightforward. But when I come out the other end, I'm like exhausted, but also like clean, like I'm through it,
Right.
And so that's where I'm at in the Raider right now. I'm working through some drama right now. I've had some health issues as we've, you and I talked about, and I've had some other issues go on in my life. And I'm like just really working them through this very angry version of Alexi right now. And I recognize that, but there's so much more I'm going to find out when I'm on the other end and go, wow, you really needed to get through that. So
Yeah.
every book is a representation of what's going on, I guess, I can't write from any other place, which is why people often are like, why don't you write this genre? And why didn't you write something different? And what have you? That's not how my muse works. That's not how my muse works. My muse works through my emotional journeys and my challenges, and to each their own. But if I'm going to spend time away from my family, and if I'm going to spend time away from everything and dedicate myself to writing, then I have to go on the journey that my muse needs to go on. And so this is the one that mine's on.
Makes sense to me. Now, speaking about the publishing your book and whatnot, especially with the metaphorical rebel book, you went into the indie and self-publishing route after many rejections that essentially said there was no platform here for gritty, sexy historical fiction sagas. What did those early no's teach you? And what advice would you give other writers facing similar gatekeeping?
Well, Nietzsche said it the best. That which does not destroy you makes you stronger. And I think that that's kind of a barbarian's way of looking at things. But he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Right.
I believe it was a he. He's not wrong. So, I was a crushed little author when I was told that. I actually met face to face with an agent who once said, "Yeah, I'm sure this is probably really good, but we don't need any more white savior stories." I'm like, what do you
Oh,
mean white savior
wow.
story? And then I had one look at me, you know what? Here's the thing. I bet it's really interesting. It's going to end up in indie. You're going to end up in niche. No one will ever read this, and you're going to give up and go write contemporary. And you'll be
Wow.
lucky if anyone buys it. And so I literally had everyone. And because I'm just a rebel and I'm that kind of jerk, I'm like, I'm going to prove you wrong, damn it. And the truth
Yeah.
is, when I got started, and to some degree, they were right. In physical
Yeah.
books, they were right, because historical right now, we are the redheaded stepchild of the audio and the book business right now. We've not had our share lately. I have faith that will change, that the time will change. People will get ready for more historical stories again. They love them. They just need to fall in love with them again. Right.
Right.
So what changed it for me was the audio business. When I got the opportunity to go into audio business, that's where I actually found a following. So it taught me, because at one point I was like, really, maybe I should give this up. Maybe I understand it's therapy, but it's expensive therapy. And it's not really, going anywhere. When I got into the audio business, things turned around and I did find some of my following, but it's still a struggle. But the thing is that if you love it, and if true writers, not people who join for the bandwagon, but people who write because it's been in their generations of their blood and how many times they've lived, they write from their soul. Like doctors were doctors all their soul lifetimes. People do. I believe that our soul has a calling every time it comes around. And my soul, besides being a healthcare worker, besides being an apothecary, is a writer. I am a writer. And it called my soul, and it calls my soul. And this is the story that wants to be told. And if I believe in it, and if I believe it's good, and I've given it everything that I have, and I do it with passion, then you know what? You just have to keep going.
Yeah.
When everybody doesn't believe in you and nobody's on your side, you have to be the one to believe hard enough. Do you think everybody believed in Prince when he got started? No.
Probably not.
Everybody believed in Madonna? No. Do you think everybody believed in Van Gogh? Hell no, we know he didn't. He cut his ear off and then he killed himself.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, like, art, if you're writing for art's sake and it's what speaks to you, you just have to keep pushing forward. And it's hard and it's tough. And I cry often and I get depressed often. But I refuse to let that person 10 years ago who said that to me be right. Just because I'm a jerk that way, I refuse to let her be right.
Yeah.
And she's not completely. There are people who love historical, and there were people who came when they heard my audios and were like, wow, this is great. So, you just have to keep going and understand that it's hard. But you know what? Every aspect of this business is hard. It's never easy. And if you're going to come into it because you think it's easy, you're here for the wrong reason. And I truly believe it. Like, this comes from a movie, and I don't know what movie it is. The heart is I think it is. I know it's A League of Their Own. Tom Hanks's character says this.
Yeah.
The heart is what makes it great. He's talking
Correct.
about he's talking about baseball. The heart is what makes it great.
Exactly.
Those are my feelings about writing. So what I would tell my friends out there and everybody, you know what? The heart is, and you know what? There's a satisfaction in being like, I'm still here. I'm still standing despite all of you.
Yep.
So, keep going. And if all else fails, Nietzsche. That makes you stronger.
Absolutely. Now, you've made it very clear that you're deeply hands-on with the audiobook productions,
Yes.
partnering with Elysian Nightfall Studios and the fantabulous and brilliantly gifted Danielle Lanzarota.
She's going to be miserable now with you saying that. She's so cocky. She's going to be so... and there's going to be no living with her anymore after that.
Danielle, if you're listening, you're welcome. Why would you say audio is such a priority for you? And how has the multicast, high production approach shaped how readers experience your stories?
Well, I have to give it to the first book. So my very first book, now it's been since re-recorded, the audio for the Tory, it was like lightning strikes. Like I had Tara Langella, I had Shane East at the time, Patrick Zeller, and Marnie Young. And they came in and just did this like amazing kick butt performance.
Yeah, it's a dynamite cast.
On the Tory, and they were nominated for 2 Sovas. I'm like, nobody independent author, like coming out of nowhere in 2020, don't even know what the Society of Voice Arts and Science is, nothing. And they won one of them. And they were fabulous, right? And people and the fans of audio at that time weren't as big. It was a little bit smaller community at that time. It was just kind of get up and running and stuff. They heard that book and just like loved it. And I was like, wow, okay. I didn't expect this. I mean, I used to just listen to, one voice actor audio, and it just changed everything, right? And at that time, people got really experimental as it was starting out. We wanted duet. We wanted all these different things and stuff. And, we expanded it, that next book, and added cast. We got Nicholas Bolton, who is so fabulous. And then we picked up, Drew MacArthur at that point, and we picked up Shane O'Small at that point, and it just exploded. And we were very smart in how we cast the book. We looked for people who had passion for the work, who, performed in a similar style. We did really careful casting, and it just created a life of its own. It took over my book, and people didn't even read the books anymore. They just wanted the audios, right? And they were more liberal in the audio world. They didn't mind the violence. They didn't mind the sexuality in a historical book. They were like, yes, bring it more, more, more. And so then eventually it came that Danielle and I partnered and took over. And then I got, then I was directing, then I was actually doing the casting. I was always helping with the casting in the beginning, actually. As a matter of fact, I was always closely involved. But now it was like just me and Danielle running the show together. And there was a process of things that happened that led to that. But ultimately, it defined my stories, right? People don't really think of me as a book writer. They think of my audio work. But that's, an audio is like a child. It's a village that makes it great.
Yes.
It's these incredible voice actors that I've been gifted to work with and that have trusted me, who is I'm not a pro in the business. I'm a writer,
yeah.
Who trusted me to work with them, to direct them, and to encourage them, and then to want to go further with me. And then Danny's incredible engineering and her guidance in the process, and then my own vision. So it took all of us, and that's why I really feel very strongly whenever I post about my books, it's never about one narrator. It's really got to be about everybody, because the Rebels and Redcoats Saga are huge books. They're 700-page books, but they've got 8 and 10 narrators depending on the book, and every one of them is important, and every person on the book is important. So it took on a life of its own, and it was like lightning striking. I can't explain it. It just happened, and then it became what it is. And then now it's really, most people are like, okay, when's the audio come in, Trace? I'm not really worried about the book, because that's what we're known for now.
Do you have any favorite production moments?
Which ones can I disclose? Okay. I have two, and I can't separate either of them. So I'm trying to think of how to say this. It was the 10 mines that Adam Gold sent me and Danielle. So he said mine 10 different ways. And we were like, wow, that one's good. No, that one's better. Oh, wait, that one's better. And we literally went back and forth and listened to mine like 10 times. And we were like, okay, which one is it? And she was texting me. I said, I think fairies just got their wings. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, every time he says mine, it's like a fairy gets a new set of wings. Because it was just, it was fabulous. So that was very cool. The second one was the dual sequence in the turncoat. So it's two brothers, the Carlisle brothers are fighting, and they're acting. And I described this to the narrators. They're fighting like little bitches. These two brothers are little bitches fighting. And I want to hear this. These are not adult men. These are kids in the playground fighting. And I want to hear this. And John Hartley sent me in this recording, like, oh my gosh, he's huffing and puffing. He's like, right in hell, John. And he's like, I'm like, dude, did you have a fight like with your brother once before? Because this is like, we were laughing so hard, me and Danielle. And then I've got, Christopher Tester on the other end being like really annoying and bratty, and he's teasing his brother. And we were just laughing so hard. So it's what they give us that just will make us laugh, because like, it's amazing. And like, sometimes some of the stuff you suddenly we're like, oh my gosh, seriously? It's so much fun to listen to it come to life. And then also when they deliver in a way that you didn't expect, like, no, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that happening. So, but those are two moments now, like, again, some of the things are trade secret in the background. I can't tell. But there were some funny dialogues going back and forth as we were like listening. Danny would say she likes the sex scenes because she knows I blush and I can't listen to them. That would be her. She thinks they're funny. So. Yeah.
Oh, golly. Now, being a Detroit area native who dreams of being a Londoner, you live with your husband and your cats, Hamilton, a.k.a. Mr. Secretary, Empress Cece, or is it Sissy?
Cece. Yeah,
Cece.
That's like the Habsburg Empress.
Yeah. How does everyday life feed the revolutionary era world you create?
Honestly, I weirdly am always thinking about my books, no matter what I'm doing, even when I'm working, which is kind of disturbing because I should be paying attention to medicine and stuff like that. But I'm very fortunate. My husband is super supportive of this. He recognizes that it's a mental health journey for me more than anything. And when it makes me sad, he's like, why do you keep writing? Why do you keep doing audiobooks? And then I get over it and then I move on. So they're very supportive of me, and we travel a lot to do research. Like, I just went to Germany and we did a lot of research there for Letter of Mark, one of my later books, because it does start in Austria and in Europe.
Mm.
And So, and then a year before that, we were in the Netherlands for a month, and I was doing research, and that also feeds my Dutch pirate that we will eventually meet, because
Ooh,
he's in East India Trade Company that was also from their end, from the Dutch end, that people don't know a lot about. So, he fed, so he kind of like fosters that. He helps support me and in the research, and being able to write has saved me in every possible way. I When things went really bad in my life, I was in a very, very bad place. And I
yeah,
don't say that lightly because I don't take suicidal tendencies or those things lightly, but I have had my problems in my life.
yeah.
And being an author saved me in every way. And it saved me, and writing these stories saved me many times over as challenges befell my life. Um, and so they it impacts my every aspect. The fact that I'm here is to this journey.
I
It's made
love
me a
that.
better, and even the journey through the audiobook world has made me a better person, a better professional, a better boss. Um, it's been a gift. It was a gift to me. Like on my hand, I have that palm reader. They show that divergence of your careers.
Right.
On one of them, I have that divergence. And that's what that was. My life changed the day that I left clinical practice. I started writing and I went into my new job, and I owe everything to this journey.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that bit.
Yeah.
What would you say has been the most rewarding reader response or unexpected connection you've made through these stories?
Anytime, well, I never expected really that anyone was going to read them again. Remember, this was not meant to be seen. So the gift of anyone ever reading my is truly a gift, right? Like every author should feel like a reader reading their book is a gift. Now, whether they like it or not is that's about them. That's not about me. Like, and people always ask me like about reviews and stuff. You do you, I do me. I went on the journey I needed to, whether you like it or not. But when somebody reads your work and they see something either you didn't, or they connect in a way that changed them or affected them, that's big. That's huge.
Yeah,
Um, and again, some readers will just read and have an experience and move on, but some will go, I get it. And actually, for me, it was really one of my voice actors who read this story and was very moved by it. Because oftentimes you give the book out to a voice actor and you're like, oh my God, they're going to judge me, but they don't. Or, oh my God, this is probably the biggest piece of crap and they've seen so many better books, right? But when you have one who comes back and is very moved by it and feels a very strong connection and can talk viscerally about the story with you and their understanding and what they felt and what changed it, you're just like, oh my God, this is the gift. This is the gift of storytelling. And actually today, even having a amazing fan reached out to me in threads and was like, oh my God, he's the toxic man, but I love everything about it, or something like that. And I was like, I love that. I love that. I love that they want to tell me what they felt. I have another fan. I love her dearly. She goes under Kay Wally. She loved Man of War. That is her favorite book. She, every time someone has a dialogue about books, oh, I'm locked up.
I can still hear you though. You're
Okay.
fine.
Every time someone mentions a favorite book, she always mentions Man of War. And she's like, don't ever change that book. Don't ever touch it. And those things are like, they're priceless. Like, four
Yeah,
fans who love your stuff are better than 5 million who just like it or read it. Four fans who like get your stuff and love it and give you that feedback and you feel things with are better than 5 million who buy a million copies and just read it for
right.
me. Because that's actually what really, I mean, yeah, dollars and cents move business, right? But like emotion moves heart and inspiration.
That's true.
So
For the aspiring historical fiction or romance writers out there that are listening to this episode, what's one practical piece of advice and one mindset shift you wish you'd had earlier that you can give to them?
don't do it. No, I'm just kidding. um, um, it's tough. It's hard right now in historical. It's hard. Um, but don't, that's not a reason to not do it. People who write historical are like, we're fierce about it, right? Like historical is kind of a little bit of the grand dame of romance, right? Like we've been around a long time. We were famous in the beginning, and there's a legacy and pride that we have going back to like Kathleen Woodwess and Judith McNaughts and stuff like that. those of us who write it because it's in our soul. I would tell you to go back and read the originals, read the beginnings, see how we've evolved. Don't live back there. Use it as a guideline and create your own version, because we still have to move the genre forward. We can't live in the past. We can't live in Regency. We have to move the genre forward if we're going to get readers again. So love it, learn it, educate yourself with it, but take it and make it your own. But remember, when you're writing historical, we're not writing historical romantasy. People who write historical, we're fierce about the truth, about finding the truth. Like, I mean, and if you want to write romantasy, that's fine. If you want to write historical romantasy, but if you're a historical person, we actually root the love of truth, of what history looked like, to teach the lesson. So love isn't always as pretty. Men owners aren't always as nice. Women's rights aren't always a thing, but that's why we tell it. So we know the journey and where we've come from and where we're going and where we don't want to go back to. There's lots to be learned in it. And there's lots to be learned how we've changed in good ways and in bad at times.
Yeah.
Right? But we owe our foremothers, our foresisters, the due diligence of their truth. We should not deny them their truth and the truth of our forefathers too. Learn it, understand it, but move it forward. That would be my advice. And that's what I tried to do as I stepped into it. I love the historicals. I have much respect for them, but I'm trying to move the genre forward and tell it my way, but still rooted in truth.
Gotcha. Couple last questions for you before we draw it to a close here, TJ.
Yeah.
Where can listeners best find you? The books, all three versions, print, ebook, and audio, including direct options, and where can they join the revolution?
So my website is www.revolutionaryauthor.com. I sell all the books, ebooks, and the audios there. All the ebooks and the audios are there. You can find paperbacks and ebooks on Amazon. I do sell on Audible, although we'll see how that continues. But otherwise, I'm on all other audio platforms. You can get the audios from me, or you can go to like Spotify, audiobooks.com, Chirp, all those. The audiobooks are there. Also always, people reach out to me sometimes, like, where do I start? How do I rate it? You know what I mean? I get all the questions. I'm somebody who usually answers those questions, not always quickly, because it depends on when I'm checking my DMs, but yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And final question for you. If you could tell your younger self one thing about the journey so far, what would it be?
Buckle up, baby. It's going to be a bumpy ride. What a fun one. And it's worth it. It's worth it. The journey is worth it. I've not sold 1 million copies. I'm not even sold close. But you know what? It doesn't matter. It's been worth it. And I get to meet people like James. We've met in person. I got to work with you. I've had Patrick Zeller won a historical fiction SOVA in my book. Like the people that I've worked with, they've gotten to win these wonderful awards. I've gone to book signings. I've traveled the world. I've been to all these places. Like, it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's challenging. It's gonna, and one of my best friends in the world, Daniela, I met because of this. She's still a pain in my ass, but I love her. And then I get to look at my shelf and go, these incredible things are mine. And so buckle up, baby. It's going to be a rough ride, but it's worth it. That's what I would tell my young self.
Thank you so much, TJ, for sharing everything you have with us today. I truly appreciate you.
I'm honored to be here again. And, obviously hear your voice and think about my characters in my head too when I hear you.
And we'll talk more backstage about that. There was something you said within the episode here that made me go, I need to bring that up to you.
Okay.
And thank you all, dear listener, for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode like I have, I ask that you please rate and review it, and also subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast, because it's out there on just about every single platform. And it also helps to reach more storytellers just like you. I also invite you to drop me a line on social media, or even email me directly about who you would love to hear next. Or more specifically, if you yourself would like to be a guest on the show, I would love to have you. Also, I host a Discord server where I showcase my behind-the-scenes work of audiobook narration, where I live stream my narration both there as well as recently on TikTok. You can find me at Narrator James over there. And then finally, you can also click the link in the show notes below because I would love to have you as a part of that Discord community as well. And finally, everybody is worthy to be loved. Everybody is worthy to be heard. Everybody has a story to tell, and I want to hear yours. So until I talk to you next time, dear listener, peace be with you.
Amen.